work is about, aspiration and becoming better. 3 things that make a lame dad. We don't drive anywhere. We complain about any household projects, and we keep the standard very low. So if we do anything, it's like, oh, thank you, that's amazing. And third, no matter what is for dinner, we fix ourselves, just ourselves, a steak.
Have a little steak.
That's the lame dads. And so I had to drive somewhere this weekend, so I think I still have residual, I haven't, this sounds terrible, and I've hated it for any way that my kids have suffered, but as mine are at that age where they're learning a lot to drive, and they're going to be all on their own doing their thing sooner rather than later. I mean, I have an 18-year-old in the house. I had to somehow drive my 16-year-old and her friend, and anyway, it happens. Lame dad here. Lame dad. Sorry.
Were you in a minivan?
Well, we are live, guys. We are live. Just for everybody who's listening, we like to kick off a little light because we always have a pre-session conversation which gets us going. But you're listening to Breaking Brains and Building Hearts. Growth is the mastery of change, and leadership is a core component and part of that path to mastery that organizations and teams and cultures depend upon. And we're talking today, as we do every week, about what's required to think differently and bring some inspiration to your organization so you can break brains and build hearts within your organization and drive growth. And
I've got the best way for them to do that.
Make a steak when everybody else is eating salad.
No, you have to talk in angry Mark Wahlberg voice in your meetings like he is in the other guys. That's how you do that.
Give us a movie that comes to mind when you think of angry Mark Wahlberg.
Well, the one that emulates it is the other guys, because he's always like mad and angry, and it's just so much. It's
what
so
is it
much
about
fun.
Angry Mark Wahlberg that's so attractive to you?
Because it's this perfect tension of holding nothing back, but he can't do any damage because you don't really take him serious.
Yeah.
And because at one moment he goes to Will Ferrell and he's like, if I were a lion, I would eat you. And he's like, if you were a lion and I were a school of tuna, or he just builds this like dramatic back and forth, and you just can't take it serious. And for me, I think I've seen this pattern in my life. When I am losing my ability to let, and this is going to sound cheesy and woo, but I mean it, to let like success catch me, I've still got to do the work. But when I'm putting in the work and I'm chasing it more than I'm letting it catch me, something changes where I take myself too serious.
Yeah.
And it seems like I've always had community around me that won't let me get away with that. Perfect example in college. I can remember but even then, I'm going to bed. I want to be at my best, and I came out to the dorm area where everybody was hanging out. I was like, guys, I'm trying to sleep. It's going to be on y'all's head when I can't tomorrow. Boo, being way too serious. And as I turn around to walk away, it's just laughter. It's like, 4, 5, 6 dudes bent over laughing. And now my kids are that. I can't get away with it. And that's a good thing. It keeps me in a place where I'm at my best and I hold it loose. But I think that's a part of it for me. It's just that funny inner rage where you're full of the piss and vinegar and you can't do any damage because you don't take it serious.
It makes me think of Alvin Gentry. He was coach of the Phoenix Suns when I first got to the organization. Now he's most recently was with New Orleans Pelicans. He's been at several different teams, but I always said Alvin Gentry is the guy you want as your dad, because he would yell at the guys, he would get angry and mad, and then in the very next second he'd be cracking a joke and laughing. He'd be so mad at you. You guys got to do this better. You're not doing it right. Yada, yada, yada. And then a player says something. He goes, yeah, you're right. Start laughing and joking. And it'd be over in an instant. I was like, this dude doesn't stay mad at anything. It'd be awesome to have as a dad. He could punish you for messing up, but then be your best friend in the next second.
Well, that I'll tell you, it's funny you say that because this ties into what you were opening with, Jimmy. Like the best leaders, the best can switch channels.
Mm.
And the best of the best can switch fast. Like you can one of the things that I know this is something I've done in working with people and helping them be better speakers is find a persona you really resonate with that is aspirationally who you want to become, something you'd like to let out more, both of those. Find ways to like watch the TV shows or movies that those are in and actually copy it until that becomes something that's a part of you, and then you'll modify it, you'll make it more your own. But like really dynamic leaders can switch channels. They can be, loose, they can be serious, they can be humorous, they can be intense, and they can, oh, look at this, my brothers, this one's for breaking brains, building hearts. Did it focus in on that, the
The
feeling?
Yeah.
feeling wheel.
The feeling we
Dude,
Yeah.
who keeps the feeling wheel on their desk? Me. Because while I don't want to be dominated by my emotions and just feel them, I don't want to deny them. I want to be aware and learning. Well, one day I could be angry, but I don't really know that I'm angry. I just go to mad, and then I go, okay, well, I'm not really just mad. I'm also a little hostile. Why am I hostile? Oh, because I'm selfish. Why am I being selfish right now? Because I'm not getting something I need. And so what happens is, for me, and this is what a lot of people don't know, even taking a persona that lets you act out something in a fun way, obviously non-harmful, like that just makes you iconic as a leader. It makes you entertaining, it makes you fun, it makes you memorable. And what most people haven't done is played with their range.
Yeah.
And if you know who you are apart from the role, you can play with your range. I could go on and on about this.
Yeah. So, Chris, what would you say to people who are like, well, that's inauthentic. That's not your authentic. You're trying to be authentic, but you're playing with these different roles and different personalities that aren't true to you. And, who would come with that argument?
Yeah. And I want to answer it, and I've got it right here. Boom. Jimmy, before I do, anything that we've talked about before on this that would come to mind, or do you want me to just dive into the answer?
I think authenticity is an awesome topic for conversation today. One of the things we wanted to talk about today was leadership, right? We've talked about teams, we've talked about culture, but coming back to the leader is outstanding, and starting with authenticity. And I'd love to just build on the example that we heard about the coach from Brett.
Yeah. Well, for me, then, as a leader, if it's your job to just be authentic, then wherever I'm at, then you got to carry that. So I'm going to dump my emotional state on you. This is what a lot of leaders confuse with like cleansing the air. They just emotionally vomited on somebody, and now they have to clean it up, but I feel better. Couples do this all the time. They feel shame over an action. They confess it to a partner or spouse, and then they feel better, but the partner or spouse has to carry it. And they're only doing that to relieve their own shame. When you don't have internal shame, then you use your emotions for clues and signals for your growth. You're not dominated by them. Then authenticity is an ever, expanding concept. What was authentic for me to do at 25, now at 42 is different because I'm different. And so what a lot of people don't understand when we say that phrase, to thine own self be true, it's what I'm discovering about who I am. But even as I discover who I am, I have a mask. I can put that mask on and I can wear that mask. I don't serve that mask. It serves me. Perfect example. As we record this, it's 1 p.m. Jimmy, how many meetings? You've already had a couple meetings today, right? At
Right.
this point?
Going to 7:30. Yeah.
Boom. Brett, I know we're different time zone, but you've already been up and at it. For me personally, I woke up at 5, excuse me. And not to prove anything, but just to make a point. Woke up at 5, started about 5:15.
I woke up at 4:50.
Dang it. I'm quitting. He's better. But that was awesome. So no, but woke up at like 5:15, recorded a couple podcast episodes, just crushing it this morning. By 9:30, I had already done really like 2/3 of a day's work because it was so zeroed in and focused. Started meetings back to back from there. At 12:50, recording this, went upstairs real quick to the restroom, and then you got family stuff happening. I felt some, my wife feeling a little bit down, right? And I wanted to enter into that emotional space and pick her up because leaders falsely want to carry everything. And nope, can't do that. Go to the bathroom. Come down here, and here's the feeling that I had at 12:55. Man, I would like to go take a nap right now. That would feel nice, authentically. But when I start this call with you guys, I want to have some fun. Why be here if we're not having fun, right? So I'm going to throw that on as a mask, if you will. But it's still me because it's. And then as we got into it, I'm completely energized now. I'm caffeinated. I feel like, give me the ball, let me roll, because that's what happens with energy. And what a lot of people don't realize is if you can't create, like, and I'm going to talk a little more woo about it because I feel like I can today. If you can't create a little bit of a vibration on your own and then learn to build personas and masks around that and still keep yours true, you'll never know how to take all the energy that's out there from others. I have a crazy story about that I'm going to pause for.
Well, I'd like to hear Brett's response because, Brett, you asked this question about authenticity, and what Chris is talking about makes sense, right? If you don't feel like showing up, but you've got to show up, you can show up as your bummed out, true, authentic self, or you can show up as you want to until you feel it.
Yeah.
Summarize.
Yeah, I think this is I think being authentic, it's it's probably a word that gets overused or labeled that isn't as helpful as we'd like it to be. It's probably used more as a rejection of an idea rather than a expression of who we truly are. I think because me playing at a master level, whether you're leading, you're performing, like you got to show up and give what the moment needs.
Right.
And so if you can tap into, as Chris is talking about with the different personas or different energies, or if you have different triggers or stuff that you can tap into exactly what the moment needs, then you're always going to be able to be a high performer, a great leader. To me, the leader is the one that's most aware, not necessarily the smartest, but who's aware enough about what the moment needs, and then who can do it, who can give it. Right. Another coach example for me is when I was working for Jeff Hornacek with the Suns. You'll know him
from basketball.
Yeah, he played for the Utah Jazz.
I did know his name,
and then coached with the Suns. But there was one moment, I can't remember all the details of the game, but I know we were playing terrible in the first half, and it was low energy. We weren't there. And Jeff Hornacek is a super mild-mannered, like easygoing, never bothered guy. Like it's just everything just rolls off his chest. Well, he walks into the locker room at halftime and he just lights into the guys. I mean, it's one of those halftime speeches where the locker room's silent. Nobody's fiddling with their shoes. Nobody's going to get water. Everyone's just stunned. And he's lighting them up. And it was so out of character, so different from his normal personality. It got everyone's attention. And it was one of those where there was no strategy talk, right? It was just him firing them up. And then we all walked out of the locker room. And on his way out of the locker room, he smiled at us assistants. He gave us a little wink and said, "We'll see if that works."
So he was turning it on.
He was turning it on. He knew what the moment needed, and that's what he had to give. And so to draw it out of the guys, and it wasn't being inauthentic. It wasn't being, it was just being a leader. It was knowing what the moment needs, what can I give it, and then being able to turn that switch on to give it what it needed. And so I think that's, when we talk about authenticity, I think it's probably a word we needlessly die on, and it just, it's not helping us as much.
Dude, you said something that I haven't heard you say before. And this is a big exclamation mark for me, because if I was just focused on being authentic in the way that most people would use it, I would miss what's happening right now. Like I'm energized. I don't want to be anywhere else in the whole world. This is where I want to be right now. Energized, fun, growing. I mean, if we can't have that, that's like the stuff of life, right? Um, so you said something about being authentic, and you think it's usually a reaction against something.
Yeah.
Have you said that before? Did you say that in this?
Just came
Because
out, man.
dude, that's like freaking. That's gold. That's gold because
Yeah.
I think that is exactly how people use that term. I just got to be authentic. When you say that, you've given me a clue and a signal that you're reacting against integrating something you're trying to avoid.
Hmm.
That's what I hear. Um, Now, are there people that come to a conclusion that they've built a business that isn't what they want, a life that they don't want? Yes, yes, yes. But usually their words are different in that moment. They're not using the word authentic. They're using words like, I feel broken. I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied.
Right.
You know, it's not that. So, okay, I'm going to write that down. Actually, I'm going to tweet it real quick and put my name on it.
It's
Dude.
interesting.
That's good.
It's interesting. When you were one of the things that I've been noodling on is because I come from the sales world, right? And so when you talked about putting a mask on, um, a lot of salespeople are taught to, for example, in order to build rapport, we want to mirror, right, the emotion, the personality of the person that we're talking to, so that because people like to engage people who remind them of themselves, right? It's a
Mirror me now.
well, I mean, so I think a lot of salespeople, for example, a lot of leaders who are trying to sell an idea or motivate people, right? They're tasked with this idea of jumping between manipulation and authenticity. So the question is, how do we teach people to be authentic, even when we're trying to be persuasive or help folks see our perspective and actually join us on our path? And what I've been playing with this idea of having shared goals, right? When you have a shared goal and you act in a sincere way, there's no room for manipulation. Manipulation occurs when we don't have a shared goal. I want something you don't want to give me. You want something I don't want to give you, right? That's a classical used car salesman scenario, or a classical manipulative or dominant or domineering leadership stance. But when Dominique showed up in the locker room at halftime, his goals were aligned with the team's goals. How do we get up and win? If I can show up authentically aligned with my team, I can be myself. When I show up for an event that I'm not prepared for, I really don't have the emotional energy to go participate in it, Chris. Per your example earlier, if I want that event to be successful and I want people to have a good time, I'm going to show up as my authentic self. My goal is now aligned with the group. That's what it raised for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Go ahead, Brett. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, for me, it comes down to two words: values and validation. So, no, for me, most humans in every interaction, they're not living, leading, relating, loving, learning. They're looking for validation. That's not where I want to live. That's just where most people live. And so it's just recognizing that when I'm trying to change somebody's mind, or it's just a waste of time. I'm going to validate what they want validated and let's go on. And I think that's the popular like nomenclature around authentic and masks and some of these things. And I love that take on it. Like usually the word authentic is this reaction. But for me, it comes down then to values. Like even being here with you guys right now, I'm noting in my body an exceptional energy response. Like I feel like I could go just run through a mountain. And I like to live in a place 1 to 10, 10 being peak expression. I feel like most days I'm 8.5 to 9.5. Like I do a lot to stay in that range. And then I have these kind of, peak moments. And those aren't going to happen if you're in an environment where other people need a lot of validation or that's misaligned with your values. And so what you're doing as a person is trying to know who you are and your values, how you build the pursuits of your roles and doing around those values, and then the relationships that come out of that. And so all of this keeps progressing. Now, if you're in a public leadership role, it is normal that you're going to be in a place where you lead people that are draining to you. So there's some kind of either value misalignment or just energetically. They're not just a neutral person, they're a drainer. I mean, when you hear them walking up, you can hear the vacuum kick off, and you know they're going to take something from you. And I was talking about this with a guy, like I was like 28 years old. I'm hiring this guy older than me for an executive like leadership position. So I took him hiking for the day just to, get to know him more. I already knew him very well, but it was a major, major hire. And like we just were like kids, man, running through the woods and hiking streams and having a blast. In fact, one time I flipped this giant rock over and doused him with water. I was like, oh, but his reaction was amazing. And he was such a super lasered in leader. It was like, who's leading who? But we're talking about draining people. And he said this, and I'll never forget it. I've remembered it years later so vividly. He goes, whenever I'm around somebody draining, I just try to drain them. And I thought that was hilarious. And I'll tell you where it like led me to a thought and a practice that was very, very practical. How many parents, when they come home to young kids and they'll say something like, they're just draining the life out of me. I actually would, for a number of years, probably like 12 years, develop this rhythm where I would pull into the driveway, put my car in park, and I had 3 meditations to close off my day. One of them, though, was, I'm going to go in there and drain the life out of them. And it was a way of me engaging my kids being little, like, I'm tired, authentically leave me alone, I've worked hard, yet I know life is won and lost in the fourth quarter, and going home is the fourth quarter. I'm going to go in, I'm going to drain the life out of them. Show me again, whatever it is when kids want to show you stuff. So, I think that we underestimate how much potential is in even the smallest of these moments. And what we can do when we separate who we are from performing. Performing is a fact of life, and that's okay. But when I can separate them, I can tap into the dynamic power that's available. Because if not, we just would coast or acquiesce into some kind of flat existence. And I know introversion and extroversion makes a difference here. So for anybody that watches this, that's a factor. I get it. I'm in the middle. So I draw energy from people and I draw energy from being alone. My ideal day has both. Most people tend to either draw energy from people or draw energy being alone. And that is fair to comment on here.
I was go back to Jimmy's point about, manipulation and I mean, you built on it great, Chris, about values and validation. And, but if there's a shared goal there, like Jimmy said, my dad and I used to debate about this word manipulation all the time. He was a super successful college basketball coach for like almost 40 years, Hall of Fame's got his name on the court, all good stuff. And he would always talk about how he's manipulating his players to do certain things. And it always bothered me. I was like, that's not the right word. Like, you're better than that, Right. And it wasn't in an evil intent way. Like, he was getting his players to do certain things that would make them be successful. And he just had to convince them of it in different ways. So what you were saying, Jim, he was like, it was shared goals. The player didn't realize that was the pathway to the goal that he wanted. And so my dad had to find a way to convince him, and he would always say, manipulate him. And I think manipulation from a unhealthy motive, I'm trying to get validated, or my values aren't aligned, like you said, Chris, or manipulation from a healthy motive, our values are aligned. I'm not looking for validation. I'm trying to help you find what you're looking for. So a lot of it comes down to motive, what's under the surface there.
Yeah, well, and isn't agreement too. Oh, sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead, man.
Well, it's this idea of an agreement, right? So when the coach shows up, the player expects the coach to move them beyond where they are, right? So there's not only the shared goal of building a team that's going to win, building a championship team, but also this agreement that says you are the coach and I am agreeing to be coached. So that's another component of that. I guess I'm curious, Brett, from your perspective, following in your dad's footsteps as you are, how do you think about it today if you don't use the word manipulate?
Well, and I think, we're in a different era now where, previous eras, it's like, I'm the coach, do what I say, and that's how it goes. And now it's like, it's a different dynamic where the player's not always agreeing to be coached. You have to convince them that you're there to help them, or maybe that what you're offering them is their own idea. So yeah, it's different. It's manipulation can have I guess an evil connotation to it, or comes with a bad stigma. But the idea is, okay, here's how I see that you can play your best, and whether that is your skill set or what's going to bring out your best energy, your best enthusiasm. What are you going to love to do? I try to impose a role on you that you don't want any part of or you don't like. You're not going to be at your best. What I've told our guys is we're going to try to trim the fat. If you look at professional athletes, take a picture of a 6-year pro and compare a picture of them with their junior year of college.
Right.
And they're going to see like their body has transformed. Right. They had all this baby fat in college, and now they've taken care of their bodies, and they're more chiseled, they're more lean, they're more sculpted. So all we've done is we've just trimmed the fat. We haven't changed the essence or core of who you are, but we're taking all the excess that maybe hasn't helped you, and we're dialing it in and trimming the fat to bring out the best stuff in you. And so that's the deal. You just kind of got to paint a vision and a picture for who they could be and who they could become, what things are helping them do that and what things aren't helping them do that.
You talking about them trimming the fat made me think about this tray of nachos I ate last night.
Jeez.
Dude, it was huge. It was awesome. No, but what I think what's changed and what people assume that's so broken is that people want to grow and develop. They often don't want to grow and develop. They either want to just acquiesce and be told what to do, or they want to seek validation through conformity, or they want to seek validation through rebelling. I've got to prove that I know a better way. Yeah. And rare is the person who shows up that doesn't have to get conformity, doesn't have to get validation, but it's like, I'm here, coach, grow me, let me develop. So the way I think about the difference, and I agree with you that manipulation has a negative connotation today, but the reality is, manipulation does happen, persuasion does happen. So for me, the filter is any time someone is in a place of power or influence, they're the institution. That's the institution. So parents are the institution, religion, coaches, it's all the institution because it has this code, this rituals, it has behaviors it's trying to pass on. And here is the test for me. Is the institution trying to make me a better person? Right. Or just remake me in the image of who they say I should be? If they're trying to make me a better person, then I can trust what they're asking me to do is in either A, my best interest, B, the team's best interest, or C, the combined. Because sometimes it's not in your best interest. There's a sacrifice you have to make, so to speak. But that sacrifice will grow and develop you. And that's what I trust. Or the institution is not doing that. It's doing something self-serving. And that's when it's dangerous. Mm-hmm. And that's when the powers of the best people at persuading, the best storytellers are usually terrible. They're terrible. I mean, how does Hitler capture, the imagination of the German people the way that he does. I mean, not to be too heavy and intense about it, but like the most influential person at a lot of like dysfunctional companies is a dysfunctional person. Health doesn't stand out.
Right.
People don't get attracted to it. Why? Because they want to conform or they want validation.
Yeah.
And so it takes a real wake up call for people. Boom. I'm going to run through the mountain. I'll be back.
Good.
It's a great topic. I think this is one of the first topics that we haven't been able to, come to a real clear consensus. And I don't think we will, because manipulation is such a, it really is one of those terms that has at its core the situation that you're in. I totally agree, Chris, that, as a coach, my job is not to consult or advise. My job is to help someone create the reality that they want for themselves. But a lot of folks would say that that's what, to use your analogy, that's what Hitler helped a lot of the folks that followed him do for themselves. So it was good for them, but not good for the country. And so is that manipulation, or isn't it? Just like an advertisement on TV will try to get you to buy their exercise equipment. Their intent is maybe to make you healthy, or is their intent to sell stuff? Regardless, somebody could say that getting healthy is a good thing. It's interesting. It's interesting. I think this idea of intent and this desire to leave someone better than they are. For example, for me, I would say, yes, a machine can help you get healthy, but I'm not going to sell it to you if you're likely not going to use it. So as a sales guy or somebody who ran a company that built healthcare equipment, I would really want to I wouldn't sell it to anybody who wanted to buy it. I'd sell it to people for whom to whom it would deliver the intended value. Otherwise, there's no sense in having you buy it. And that way I can also avoid you making an emotional decision versus a decision that was well thought out. So I think that also has a little bit to do with that definition and whether we're here to build people or not.
Well, and that's an honesty on your part. What's sad is oftentimes bigger systems aren't that honest. So, this is a huge issue you have right now, even in education, that started happening in the 60s and 70s as things were reworked out of Marxism that spread over to this country, and not even weighing in on either side, because I think both extremes have such flaws politically right now. But you are always a part of a bigger system, institutions and narratives. And of course, now people on the extreme right and the extreme left weigh in on all these with their opinions. And I don't see another way forward that isn't more time tested, true, and founded on ancient wisdom than the individual has to figure out who they are. They have to figure out what they want. They have to figure out where they're headed. They have to figure out what it looks like for them to be activated and motivated. Because when that person goes through that kind of transformation, then they don't seek conformity. Then they don't seek, the external validation of something that they're trying to rebel against in the institution. They just live their change. And over enough time, those people come together and something changes, And that for me is what makes a topic like this so exciting, because I did a project in college for a class that I took called rhetorical criticism. And the project was I had to go to Walmart and note every time they tried to send me a persuasive sales message. Like, that was a crazy experience, man. Like, writing it all down all the times. I went from all this stuff being in the background and noticing it. All that's happening around us all the time. Now, on the extreme left, it's, this is the end of the world. You've been trained in all these deep dysfunctional patterns. On the extreme right, that doesn't matter. We're going to tell you, who to be and what to do. And now you have these violence on both sides fighting this out. And it's the individuals in the middle that are like, I want to wake up. I want to find my path. I want to find my wisdom. And I want to find the people who are in institutions that can help me grow like crazy.
Hmm.
You know, that's where it gets exciting.
So
sorry, guys, y'all got the deep. So fun, Chris, angry Mark Wahlberg,
yeah,
and then philosopher Chris somehow
Right.
snuck in the side door, and he doesn't need to show up too much because, you know, he's got weird thoughts.
Interesting. Brett, we're about ready to wrap up in about 5 minutes or so. How would you summarize what we've learned today about authenticity, manipulation? What do you think? What are you thinking?
Thanks for giving me the easy question. Yeah, what a great topic to talk about. I think a lot of what Chris said hits the nail on the head, and I think we've hit this before, where you're deep down below the surface, it comes down to motive. You know, why are you doing what you're doing? Is it to seek validation? Is it to take from somebody else? Is it to show up and give and serve? And give the moment what it needs. I also think it's really inspiring and encouraging that, that we don't have to be stuck in one persona or one personality type. I'm an introvert. I learned how to be an extrovert so I could be a better coach. It's like you don't have to be stuck in one thing. This is who I am and I can't change. This is who I am. You have to deal with it. Like if we really dive into the depths of who we are, what's in us, what has shaped us, and what we have to offer, we can be anything, everything for any moment, whatever it needs to be. And so that's exciting. It gives you new avenues or new places in yourself to explore and grow. So for me, that's encouraging and inspiring. It's going to turn me on for today.
Yeah. How about you, Chris?
I awareness within myself says, Chris, you just kind of went uncorked a little bit today, and I feel like I've said enough.
You're going for a run.
Other than I'll quote Brett and say, notice wherever you're feeling a push to push out authenticity, because there's probably some deeper work to do rather than just go, this is who I am. Got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Unless it includes not doing house stuff.
Right. Well, what's really cool though is you told an example of an interview you conducted for a senior leadership position where you went for a hike, and that strikes me as an authentic way for you to get to know someone to the level you require in order to make them an offer to work with you, right, in a very important position. For me, I think the takeaway today, this idea of shared goal really talks to your point of motive, Brett. Do we have a shared goal? Am I trying to sell you something or help you get healthy? And what do you want? A lot of folks don't want to be healthy. They just want to eat that junk food. And then how do you justify that against what Chris talks about in terms of helping everybody get to a better place? So this idea of shared goal, as long as it is helping folks get to a better place, I like that a lot. And I also like, Chris, what you talked about with regard to making authenticity both a responsibility of the provider of the information, the one speaking, and also the receiver of the information, the person listening. We both parties have responsibility for operating in an authentic way. And I like the idea that if we are in an organization that rewards authenticity, we can actually build habits and a culture that can take us, to your point, Brett, places that we never expected we could have gone. Because now we're really showing up to work every day fully realized and activated and excited to be there.
It's beautiful.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Brett, before we wrap, I also want to give Chris a chance, but talk about what he's got going on. But you've got, I'm seeing you all over social media with Catching Confetti. I just actually bought the audio version of the book. What's going on with
Yeah, audio version is out. So if if you ever wanted to have me read you a bedtime story, go grab the audiobook and I can be your companion for the evening.
That's good stuff. And you know, Brett, I've been around a lot of thoughtful people, and Chris and I do a lot of this kind of have a lot of these kinds of conversations. And you know, I'm really pleasantly impressed with the depth you bring to common topics and topics we have all wrestled with, and the perspective you bring. So I've really enjoyed not only these conversations, but the book as well.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you saying that. This has been fun to hang out with you guys every week. It inspires me and takes me to new levels too. So hopefully it's doing it for other people as well.
Cool. And Chris, in an authentic way, what we're talking about today is this idea. We're always talking about leadership and this idea of building teams and cultures and building organizations that can get us to a better place, quote unquote, right where we want to be. And we've got a special offer with the Growth Multiplier Index that helps organizations get started. Can you quickly share what we're doing there?
I love it. Because as much as we've talked about what it means to perform, at the core, when somebody's relaxed or super stressed, they're going to handle themselves being authentic in a good way or a bad way. If they're relaxed, it's good. If it's bad, it's because they're so stressed. And so what we do with the Growth Multiplier Index is we give you a tool. It takes you 10 minutes. Then you figure out your team as they take it also. Do we have the right roles? And are the people in the right roles? Because you need this whole makeup. You don't need a bunch of people like me on your team. You don't need a bunch of Bretts or a bunch of Jimmys. You got to have the unique team that's yours.
Right.
And so Growth Multiplier Index is how we're doing that to help you, because you're going to waste a ton of time and energy if you don't have that in place.
Right. And to Brett's point, Brett talked about alignment, right? It's super easy to be authentic if you're in a role to which you are well aligned and with the expectations and everything else. So it's a really important tool, and it's topical for today's conversation. So Brett, thank you for joining us. Co-founder of Champion Shift and author. Get his audio book. And Chris McAllister, thanks for joining us. He's the co-author and also founder of SiteShift. And I'm James Rories. When you're a client and you get to know me, you can call me Jimmy with Flores Group. Glad to have you, and we look forward to next week. Take good care, everybody.
See you, fellas.